So Boyd, thanks for seeing me again today, and Mark, I just wanted to kind of go over that employee we were talking about the other day, the one that I was investigating over a hostile work environment, and one of the employees had mentioned to me that he had used his district credit card to buy them Christmas gifts. So I brought you the financials, and I know you took a look at it, and of course I really think what he did was unethical based off the Florida Code of Ethics. So I just kind of wanted to see where you were at and discuss where we need to go from here.
So the situation is that there was the use of a purchasing card for which the principal purchased over 160 gift cards at a cost of over $4,000. And in the investigation of that, it was learned that in many cases, not all cases, but in many cases, the gift cards were used for staff recognition, student recognition, probably not as many as the principal stated were being used that way, because another part of the investigation would later determine that there were some things that were purchased for personal use, and in some cases quasi-personal use. So the challenge was the bookkeeping wasn't very good. There was a lot of procedures that weren't clearly followed, and the contention by the principal was that, yeah, I may have not followed some procedures, but I was doing this all for the benefit of our students and our staff, and so therefore it really shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Was he, when that conversation was had, was he aware of the procedures? Did he have a clear understanding of them?
Yeah, so that was an interesting part of the investigation, is that he was scheduled for training and didn't attend on the day of that training. I think as I recall, he was there just for a short period of time but had to leave, and that was part of his defense, was that, well, I didn't have all the training that I needed to have, and some of the rules had changed and those things, so which further solidified his point of view that I was acting on behalf of students and staff, and so these were just mistakes, and they weren't clear violations of policy.
But he'd been an administrator for a while at a number of schools.
Yeah, he'd been an administrator for a while, and actually even in the past had a questionable issue with some monies collected back before he was principal. So there was maybe a pattern of kind of being lackadaisical with the financial side of it.
With that being said, Boyd, I was just kind of looking through the Code of Ethics, and in my opinion, he's violated quite a few. So as we're like looking to see how we're going to figure this out, if you look at the Code of Ethics 1C, it says that the Florida educators shall be guided by the following ethical principles, that they're aware of the importance of maintaining the respect and confidence of one's colleagues, of students, of parents, and of other members of the community, and that the educator strives to achieve and sustain the highest degree of ethical conduct. I know you said that most of the gift cards, of the 160 plus gift cards, were used for students and for staff, but there were some purchases, it looked like, that were outside of that realm. And the other one that I was kind of seeing that he violated as well was 2B number 3, where you should not use your institutional privileges for personal gain or advantage. So if he was using that P card on anything that he benefited from, I think that's certainly a violation of our Code of Ethics. And the last one I looked up was under C1, which was to maintain honesty in all professional dealings. So again, if he used anything for his own personal gain, if he purchased any gift cards that he used for himself, then I think that he wasn't being honest in his dealings, as a professional.
So the investigation revealed that the personal items, that were purchased were, he was at a conference and purchased, food and dinner, while at the conference. His point of view was he didn't realize he couldn't use the purchasing card for that.
Did he also get a stipend for meals that day? Did you recall?
There was,
So don't,
no stipend was received for that,
but was it in excess of that daily limit that we have of?
No, it was just a misuse of the purchasing
misuse?
card.
Okay.
And then there was a questionable purchase about luggage, for going out there. The point of view, relative to that allegation was that, I needed luggage for the trip. It was a trip for business, and upon my return, I continued to use the luggage for my daily commute back and forth to work. I would put my work items in that, and so,
Was this a briefcase or actual luggage?
it was luggage, so.
Interesting,
So,
okay.
when you talked to him, did he ever relate whether he spoke to his bookkeeper? Because usually bookkeepers are pretty adept on purchases and what you can and can't use that purchasing card for. Did he ever
What was
run any of
interesting,
these things by?
yeah, what's interesting in this case is that there was a change in bookkeepers from one year to the next, and the new bookkeeper came to us from a different county, and in the previous county, the bookkeepers reported to the district. In this county, the bookkeepers reported to the principal, and so it appeared that he took advantage of that and said, no, this is how we do it. The bookkeeper, it didn't really coincide with the training she was given by our district, but being a 2 or 3 month
Wasn't an
employee,
experienced
yeah.
person like I had.
Right, yeah, so, she, eventually cooperated with us and was, real helpful, with the situation, but, so some of it was because of her being intimidated by being new and by the individual. There was a questionable purchase for what was initially said to be a retirement gift for an employee, but ended up being a gold bracelet, I think, for a friend. And so, so you had a whole lot of things. You had some clear policy violations, and so those, but I think the ethical dilemma was the use of the purchasing card and to buy gift cards for the purposes of student and staff recognition. And so, well, that's a violation of procedure and not really policy. It was a violation of procedure. The question that was presented to us by this individual, but I was doing it for the kids. It's always for the kids. And, so those were, that was something that we considered, and, we had to look into. I think, basically where we fell out on that is it's a violation of procedure, and one of the principal's primary responsibilities, both by policy and by the code of ethics, is to follow, particularly with the bookkeeping procedures, follow those procedures, and so that there can be no reliance on I didn't know as an excuse, for that.
So in the future, outside of how we're going to handle him specifically in his violations of the procedures and code of ethics, I do think that we need to have a plan in place to avoid any gray line, anything to be skewed in the future in relative to the training that our administrators or anybody who uses our district credit cards
Right.
on what the expectations are and aren't, and maybe have it more streamlined, that they not only take the course, but maybe have an exam after, or sign something to attest that they took the course.
Yeah, following that course of finance, they ramped up their training, they made more specific about the, you know, the purchasing cards, and how they could be used, but they, you know, still, the still nagging question, I think, that always exists is that, you know, in this school particular, I think we know, serves a lot of poor kids. And, you know, that really gets to be, you do have this opportunity to help some real struggling people, but to do that is a violation of the procedures that we have in place. And so you have, you know, and maybe this person wasn't as well-meaning as he, you know, but you do have well-meaning people that have the access to help students, but to do that may be a violation of policy and procedure, and that really becomes a dilemma. It's kind of like really very similar to the principal that I think it was in Illinois where she said that one of her students who didn't have insurance was her child and was on her insurance,
Yes, I
and
recall that.
committed fraud. And this really, you know, a lot out of this case, well, some of it's very clearly, you know, violation. A lot out of this case kind of gets into that realm of, okay, if I'm helping desperate kids, am I, you know, what standard am I still being held to? And I think our district's position was that the procedures are the procedures, and, you know, we can't on a case-by-case basis say, well, it's okay that you violated this procedure, you know, but you violated it, so we're really gonna
Right, we need the
invoke
consistency.
the code of ethics and that type of
So
thing.
going back to what Don said about having a plan in place for the principal, you know, going forward. And if it, let's say for any person that possibly could fall into this with all good intention of helping kids, right?
Right.
So, you know, currently the way it happens at most schools is the only people signing off on those documents for those purchases is the principal and the bookkeeper. No one reviews that beyond the principal. So should there be a procedure or procedure change where there's an additional
Layer.
look? Exactly. that there's
Somebody
an-
outside of the school who's not so
That
connected.
eventually, if the principals goes to his supervisor and
Right.
their supervisor has the ultimate responsibility to review what principals have
Right.
done, then they would have caught those things early on.
Right.
And maybe if it was an honest error, and there,
Right.
I could see where some people may do this thinking you could do, trying to help kids.
Right.
And have a naive bookkeeper that hasn't been around very long.
Right.
Well, this would maybe prevent that from going too far down the road.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's like right now in this building, you know, I mean, I sign my purchases, and then Dr. Griffin signs off on it, you know, so he looks through and, you know, and like with you guys, I
Right.
sign.
You sign
You
off.
sign for ours,
Yeah,
right.
sign off on yours. At the school level, are they the executive directors doing that, or?
That is what we're doing now.
Yeah,
And that's based off of what happened.
It's
but it's
based
based
on
off
this
what
incident.
happened with this,
Yes. Which makes more sense, it gives it accountability.
right,
And somebody disconnected, I think, from the emotional attachment of the
Right.
person that wants to help the students. if
And the
that's
thing
case.
about this situation is, you know, it isn't always a violation to purchase items for kids. It depends on
the manner.
exactly, because you can do that, but there's a process that you go through, because I've done it, and yes, you can do that, and you purchase rewards and for different activities using a P card.
Right.
But there's a process, an
There's a-
appropriate process, and.
Right, and there's an accounting.
And there's an accounting.
And what happened in this case is that the log wasn't used, and so there's a log for every time the log, you know, the log wasn't used, and so, I mean, there are just stacks of gift cards in this briefcase, you know, so,
Handing
That's
them out
never allowed.
at will.
yeah, that's,
Well, handing out gift cards is not allowed.
right,
Right.
Purchasing gifts for, or not rewards for kids is allowed in a certain manner, but using gift cards as rewards is not allowed.
Right.
It never has been.
Well, especially in this case where he wasn't logging, I mean, I know it's a violation altogether, but he wasn't logging it, even if it was any type of a gift.
Mhm.
So there was no accountability, so. So I think what I got out of this, and again, aside from how the principal himself is being handled in this situation and in the code of ethics violation, is that what we've gotten out of this is that we are improving our practices on the training, having an extra set of eyes on the process, somebody outside of the school, an executive director level, looking at the purchases outside of the principal and the bookkeeper. And any other takeaways?
Well, and I think also the other thing that came out of it was that, to make at the time it was families in transition and now it's families in need, to provide principals with a place to go when they do have needy students and they want to get them some assistance. There's a process and a way for that to occur. So it's not like we don't wanna put people in a situation where they know kids need help and there's no place for them to go get it. So now, we turn families in transition, which was really only for homeless students, to now families in need, which broadens the scope of who they can help.
Yeah, well, that's excellent.
Yeah.
I appreciate both of you and your time, and as we work through this, so, thank you.
All right, thank you.